With Dalton Brown. I'm Patrick Creighton. Got a lot of great baseball info to get with you today. As with SportsMap Elite, we teach you how to find the leans, how to find the value, how to make the money. My man Dalton has been absolutely killing it on baseball this year. And if you are not making lots of money wagering on baseball, well, go get your pen and paper or go open up the notepad in your phone and get ready to start taking stuff down, because my man Dalton here, he's got all the juice for you. What's going on, Dalton?
Oh, not too much. Just been working my butt off, getting ready. We got a big slate today, 14 games, so ready to dive into it, and yeah, should be fun.
Full slate of games today. We'll start with the Brewers and the Pirates. That game in Pittsburgh. That's a 6:35 Eastern start. Brewers minus 170 on the line here. Pirates plus 150. Over under on this game is 7. It's a 1.5 runs. Usually the run line is always going to be 1.5. This is a game where the Pirates pitcher Mitch Keller, he's been having a rough go of things. And I'm sure if you looked at his numbers, and I know you have, Dalton, it hasn't just that he's been lousy this year. He was lousy last year. He was lousy in 2019. Where's your value? What are your picks for this particular game?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one where personally I'm going to pass the game. I think it's lined rather appropriately with the Brewers as a pretty substantial favorite here. Taking a look through some of the notes I've got. I mean, obviously Brandon Woodruff is a great starting pitcher from Milwaukee. He just faced Pittsburgh last Wednesday, threw 6 scoreless innings against them, 9 strikeouts, only 1 hit. Really dominated them in that outing. But there's a lot of familiarity there. Pittsburgh just saw him. Last year he faced him as well. 7 innings, 2 runs. So I mean, his outings against Pittsburgh have been pretty par for the course for what you can expect from Brandon Woodruff. I think Mitch Keller is a guy that the Pirates have been high on for a little while. They really want him to, they really want him to be the ace of that staff. He's been one of their top pitching prospects for a while. He just hasn't looked it. But the Pirates are competing hard. They're at 8-8. I think they're exceeding expectations, at least so far. I think the public here is obviously going to be all over Milwaukee, but I think if you take a closer look at Mitch Keller, he opposed Brandon Woodruff in that same game last Wednesday and actually pitched pretty well. He got the loss, but only allowed a run over 5 innings. So, I think if this game were lined closer to a pick 'em, there'd be plenty of value on Milwaukee, but I don't really want to lay a whole bunch of juice. And I think, first 5 under, that's also a look I might have had, but at 3.5, that number's too low. So it's a stay away game for me. It might lean toward under, but that's about it.
So you said the line minus 170 on the Brewers. You like the Brewers to win. It's just the value isn't there. The cost is kind of prohibitive on that.
Exactly, and that's going to be the name of the game with a lot of these. When you're taking a look at a line in baseball, it's a very different conversation when you're taking a look at a line in another sport. Like when you look at a football line, you're just looking at a point spread and you're saying, do I think they cover that one way or another? And you're not often so concerned because you're typically looking at minus 110 either way. Baseball is all about, what value am I getting in the money line and how does that extrapolate out into other bets?
No, that's the first game on the slate in the National League. Second game, 6:40 Eastern start. The 10-7 Padres, the 3-13 Cincinnati Reds. You see the line come up here. Line for the Padres actually has gotten a little bit better. It went from 175 down to 165. Reds have gone from 155 to 145. Over under on this game is 8 runs. What's your lean on this one, Dalton?
Yeah, I've got a bet here. It's not my most confident play of the day, but it is a bet on San Diego first 5 innings laying the half run on the run line. That comes in at minus 125. Joe Musgrove has been really excellent since he got to San Diego, and that's continued this season. He did pitch against Cincinnati just a week ago, pitched into the 7th inning, gave up 2 runs, looked really solid. He's one of the only pitchers in baseball who's going out there and completing 6 innings every start. He's done it in all 3 of his starts this season. And then I think the big issue here, you look at the Reds against right-handed pitching, they are dead last. They're batting 179. Their WRC plus is 53. For reference, 100 is the average on that number. That's how that number is designed. So they're absolutely awful against right-handed pitching, and Musgrove already shoved against them once. So it's hard for me to imagine Cincinnati scratching across more than a run over the first 5 innings. Meanwhile, Raver San Martin going for the Reds. Young kid. I was pretty impressed when I watched him against my Dodgers, but the Dodgers have really struggled against left-handed pitching. And if you look at San Martin in his other 2 starts, he's kind of gotten eaten alive. Gave up 5 runs to the Padres in that same game against Joe Musgrove. Really didn't go well for him. And the Reds bullpen is just awful behind him. So I think, even if, let's say he goes out there and he goes 3 or 4 innings and they get him out of the game, there's no relief coming in behind him. So this feels like one where I would be very surprised if the Padres did not have a lead after 5 innings. Also, there are very few home field spots in Major League Baseball right now that are going to be less valuable than Cincinnati. Their owner came out and basically told the fans that he doesn't really care about winning games, and the fans are responding as such. I live about an hour from Cincinnati. I got tickets for $30 each to sit on the dugout tomorrow night. So that gives you kind of a sense. Their fans are not super enthused, and I don't blame them. San Diego should take care of business early on.
Now, let me ask you about this one, Dalton, because Great American Ballpark is a bandbox, and the ball historically flies out of that park. You talked about San Martin, and he's got a 7.11 ERA through 3 starts. You mentioned he pitched well against the Dodgers, but last time out against San Diego, gave up 8 hits and a homer and 5 runs and 5 1/3. His first game out, he gave up 4 runs, 8 hits, 5 walks in 2 1/3 innings. So it's been a rough go for him. But this is a young guy who only has 82 innings at AAA under his belt, and now he's being asked to pitch the major league level on a team that really isn't all that good. Joe Musgrove, I think, one of the most underrated pitchers in baseball. Look at his numbers from last year: 3.18 ERA, 1.08 WHIP. He struck out 203 batters in 181 innings. It's a really strong K rate. He's a guy who's improved his K rate, his WHIP, and his ERA each of the last 3 years. He's become a very reliable pitcher, kind of under the radar. A guy who came up young with the Astros, was involved in a trade, has been traded a couple of times, but has actually become a very reliable, like 2-3 type of starting pitcher, with the line of 8 in a ballpark that does not hold fly balls, with a Padres team that likes to hit homers. Is this a game that you could see being an overplay?
I could, but I think if you wanted to go that route, you'd be better off targeting the Padres team total, or targeting the Padres on one of the run lines. Reason being, I just don't trust the Reds to score. I think especially against a guy like Musgrove with how poor they are hitting righties, that keeps me off a full game over. But I think there's a great argument to be made for San Diego's team total over, which I'm guessing is sitting at about 4.5 here. The Padres, I think there's reason for them to. They want to take out some frustration, and they're in a great spot to do so at Great American Ballpark tonight. This last weekend against the Dodgers, they had the walk-off sac fly Saturday night. San Diego, threw a huge party, but they got blown out the other 2 games in that series, and I think they've got some frustration to take out tonight. So, I mean, if there's an angle to go at an over, I think it's the Padres team total.
Very cool. See, this is why we talk to Dalton, because we look at some different things here. We see some statistics. We see trends. You see things that are going on, not just in the short season this year, but for a guy like San Martin, it's historical. What has he been? And there is not a whole lot on him. Guys who usually don't have a whole lot of history and are getting beat up early and play on bad teams. It's hard for them to get that turned around. They don't have the support behind them. That usually leads to their team giving up a lot of runs. Next game on the docket, 6:45 Eastern start. The surprising 10-6 Colorado Rockies in Philadelphia to take on the 7-10 Phillies. Rocks are plus 150. That's actually gone up. The Phillies minus 170. That has gone the other direction as well. That's up 10. Well, I guess from minus 160, I could say it's down 10. Over under on this one is 8. 2 pitchers in this game: Herman Marquez, Zach Eflin. Both of these guys, league average. Zach Eflin maybe worse than league average. Neither one of them generally goes a whole lot more than 5 innings like for their career. Both of these teams over their last 10 games are pitching to high ERAs. The Phillies and near 5 ERA. The Rocks over 5 ERA. What do you like on this game, Dalton?
So I actually am a pretty big fan of German Marquez. He's a guy that I think if he pitched anywhere but Colorado would get a lot more respect and probably deserves it. All 3 of his starts this year have come at elevation at Coors Field. So to have an ERA under 5 is probably a bit more impressive than it looks on paper. He's also, he went 6 innings his last outing against Philadelphia. He's a guy that will eat innings for them, especially on the road. And I think this line to me feels like a massive overreaction to the fact that Eflin beat Colorado last week and Marquez lost to Philadelphia last week. In reality, Colorado is playing better baseball. Colorado's lineup has been producing more runs. Colorado is 6th against righties in WRC plus, and they're 11th they're 6th against righties in WRC plus. Philly's only 11th in that category, and they have a better batting average in that split as well. I think Colorado, you could make an argument right now, might be the better of the 2 teams, and I think German Marquez is definitely the better of the 2 starting pitchers. Zach Eflin is 1-3 with a 6.49 ERA against the Rockies in his career. That includes the decent start he had at Coors last week. I would just bet against him being able to do that again. I think making Philly a substantial favorite here doesn't make any sense. And an interesting fact on Eflin too, you look at that 1-3 with a 6.49. Most of that came against the Rockies of the past few years. Well, one of the big differences is the Rockies have added Chris Bryant into the lineup this year. Chris Bryant is 8 for 13. That's a 6.15 batting average against Zach Eflin for his career. I think the Rockies are very undervalued here. I prefer to take them in the first 5 innings because both of these bullpens are super unpredictable. So I like Colorado both plus 130 on the money line in the first 5, but I think the best way to look is on the run line plus half a run at minus 110. You're basically getting a pick 'em on Colorado to just be tied. I love that. So one of my best bets today is going to be Colorado plus half a run first 5 innings.
Don't like I say, I've never been a fan of Zach Eflin as a pitcher. Generally, he's a 5-inning guy with the high ERA and a high WHIP. And when you put that many guys on base, usually good things don't happen. Would Marquez be a better pitcher outside of Coors? I think everybody would be a better pitcher outside of Coors. I mean, I remember, Pedro Estacio, when he pitched for Colorado, was like, look, there's no way I'm going to have, a 3.2 ERA pitching half my games at Coors Field. So let me just keep the ball down, get ground balls, not let fly balls, sail out of the ballpark, and I'll win games. And, he would win a good amount of games pitching to a 4.5, 4.6 ERA because the ballpark that he pitched at. Citizens Bank Park, another park that's, it plays very small, but it doesn't play like Coors. And, I think Marquez is definitely the better of the 2 pitchers. And kind of like you said, this is like one of those, all right, well, Eflin beat Marquez a week ago, therefore he should automatically beat him again this week. I would almost say wrong team favored.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I agree.
The Rockies have been better. They've been more consistent. Their lineup has been more consistent. And I would never trust Zach Eflin to be able to go out and beat a team twice back-to-back, anytime, anywhere, any place. I like the Rockies in this game much as you do.
Yeah, I mean, if you were just to show me this line blind, right? If you said the Rockies are plus 150, their opponent's minus 170, the Rockies have German Marquez on the mound, I'm assuming that they're in LA facing Walker Buehler or that they're in Toronto facing Kevin Gausman. It's relatively shocking to me to see the Phillies as this big of a favorite.
All right, our next game, 7:05 Eastern start. The Florida Marlins, 7-8 on the season. The Washington Nationals, 6-12 so far this year. Marlins line has gone from 125 to 130. Nats have gone from plus 105 to plus 120. Over under on this game, 7.5. Sandy Alcantara on the bump for the Marlins. And if you're not familiar with who Sandy Alcantara is, that is a young man you want to watch pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Sandy Alcantara is one of the true aces in Major League Baseball at this point. And if you look at what he did in his last start, 8 shutout innings against the Cardinals, that's a pretty good lineup. Now he faces a Washington team that doesn't have that same punch, and it's a team that he faced twice last year. He did just okay in his start at home against Washington, but then late in the year, absolutely dominated the Nationals once they had kind of stripped down their roster. No more Trey Turner. He went out there and threw 8 scoreless innings against them in that spot. So I really like the matchup for him. Juan Soto's hit him well, 8 of 22 for his career, but the rest of the Washington projected lineup combined is 7 for 48 in their career against Sandy Alcantara. That's a 145 batting average. So as long as he doesn't give up 2 homers to Juan Soto, it's hard for me to imagine the Marlins getting into a deep hole in this game. Now, on the flip side, Josiah Gray gets the start for Washington. I'm pretty high on him. He was a guy coming up through the Dodgers system that I was really excited to kind of watch grow into a Major League pitcher. He was one of the casualties in the trade that brought the Dodgers Max Scherzer and Trey Turner. He was kind of the top pitching prospect, one of the main pieces in that trade, and he's looked it over his last few starts. He's thrown 10 1/3 innings over his last 2 starts, only allowed 1 run. One of those starts was against Atlanta too. So, he's not exactly doing it against poor competition. He did actually face Miami twice last year, and both starts looked almost exactly the same. 6 innings, 2 runs. I think he's pretty steadily becoming a very solid starter in the league and a guy that, I'll be looking to back at times, just not here. Miami is the better team overall. Their bullpen ranked 13th in ERA. Washington's ranked 21st. So when the starters come out of the game, I still give the Marlins an advantage. I think Miami on the money line here. I think I caught them at minus 115, but I would fine with it at minus 125. You're looking at the better overall team. Washington's lost 5 in a row. They're not playing good baseball. And I think even if Gray does go toe-to-toe with Alcantara, you've got the better bullpen coming in late. So I'm going to take the Marlins on the money line there.
Yeah, something to watch as the season goes on when it comes to the Nationals. A story broke earlier this week, the Lerner family looking to sell the Washington Nationals. And the Lerner family purchased the Nationals the year after they moved to Washington. That first year, they were still owned by Major League Baseball. They purchased the team the year after they moved to Washington. They helped build the franchise from the bottom up after Jeffrey Loria had destroyed it and then moved it. They have been really good for that franchise. It resulted in a world title in 2019. But knowing that they are looking to sell, you're a player on that team, A, no reinforcements are coming, and B, there's a good chance if you're making anything more than the minimum, you might be getting dealt at the deadline. That could be a team that really falls off the cliff as the season goes on, depending on how that sale takes place. I think that's something to watch when it comes to the Washington Nationals. This is Touch 'em All, presented by SportsMap Elite. He is Dalton Brown. I'm Patrick Creighton, with you, breaking down all the angles and all the inside juice that you need to make money on baseball today, April 26th. Our next game, 7:20 Eastern start. The 7-9 Cubs, the 7-10 Braves. Cubbies plus 145. That line has gone up from 140. Braves minus 165. That has moved from 160. Over under on this game is 8. So far, it has not been a great season for Cubs starter Marcus Stroman, Dalton.
No, it hasn't. Stroman, actually, my former college teammate, he's really had a tough time so far this year. The Rockies and Rays lit him up over his last 2 starts for 12 earned runs in just 8 innings. He against Atlanta, he threw 1 inning last year with the Mets. So not a whole lot to go off of in the matchup individually, but look, against a good lineup like Atlanta, the way he's been going, I want no part of my money backing Marcus Stroman today. There's just no reason to take that risk. I look at the other side of the coin. Max Fried was really dominant in his last start against the Dodgers, which surprised me. I had bet against him that game because the Dodgers had typically touched him up in the past. But again, Dodgers against left-handed pitching this year, there's been surprising struggles there. Cubs, on the other hand, are 9th in baseball in WRC plus against lefties. So, there's reason to believe they may see him a little better. But Max Fried for his career, 3-0 with an ERA around 1.5 against the Cubs. I just don't know how much that matters. This is a totally different Cubs roster than most of what he's faced in his career. There's no Chris Bryant, there's no Anthony Rizzo, Javi Baez, none of those guys. This is just one of those games. I don't feel like I have a great idea of what I'm going to get from either starter. Atlanta being a moderate, minus 160, minus 170 favorite, it feels right to me. I don't have a lot on the total either. These are two starters that are both talented. They may not be throwing well, but they're both talented. So you never know when they're going to figure it out. I can just find too many reasons to not bet this game. So I'm passing on
it. Max Fried, coming off that game against the Dodgers, Max Fried's got a little better each start and has ramped up to 7 innings. Fried, I think, is a guy who is a legitimate front of the rotation guy, pitched tremendous in the World Series. I could definitely see Fried continuing to pitch well. Stroman's a guy who I think he's a good pitcher. I don't think he's as good as he thinks he is, but he is a good pitcher. And when he's on, he's very good. But he has not been on. As I said, that's 12 earned runs in 8 1/3, where he's given up 14 hits and a couple of homers. And that's a tough Braves lineup that you're going to face, team that has a lot of power. And this is another one of those where if you like the Braves, the juice is just too high.
Yeah, I would say so. I think if you really want to back the Braves and it's because you really want to fade Marcus Stroman, I would probably look at the first 5 innings run line and lay the half run and bet on the Braves to be ahead. You can get that at minus 120. But again, Max Fried's been improving, but I'm not sure I'm ready to buy in on him yet against a Cubs lineup that's been hitting pretty well. So, it's a stay away from me. If you force me to play it, probably Braves first 5, I suppose.
So here's a little bit. I don't know if you've seen this yet. It's kind of come out today. The Yankees letter was released, and they were cheating SOBs. All the way back in 2015. They were cheating SOBs, and they were fined $100,000. And it turns out they were fined in 2017, fined $100,000 for using the replay room and the dugout phone to steal signs all the way back in 2015. They were cheating for 3 years before they got punished. But remember, Brian Cashman says everything that they didn't win was stolen from them.
Yeah, look, I'm a huge Dodger fan. I don't have a whole lot of comment on that. I haven't really been following that story as close as I think a lot of people in Houston have. But yeah, that's certainly an interesting development. I don't have a whole lot on it, but it's an interesting development.
They talked a lot of trash, and now they're going to get it all dumped on them, almost like karma is rhymes with itch. Can't think of the word. It'll come to me. Let's get to our next game because it involves the other New York team. 7:45 Eastern start. The 13-5 New York Mets. It's nice to be a Met fan this year, because there's a lot of rough years for being a Met fan. But today we can be happy. 13-5 on the season, taking on a very good St. Louis Cardinals team, 9-6 at Busch. Metsies, this line has moved quite a bit. Mets were minus 125 earlier today, down to 110. Cardinals were plus 105. That is now an even line. 7 on the over-under. Cardinals are going to start Jordan Hicks. Now, Jordan Hicks has pitched pretty well this year. He's pitched into a 1.29 ERA. The problem for Jordan Hicks is his last start was his deepest start. He went 3 innings. That means there's a lot of bullpen that you have to throw against The team that is tied for scoring the most runs in the National League, Dalton, the Mets and the Cards.
Yeah, I'll say this. I mean, I'm excited to see the Cardinals moving Jordan Hicks into the rotation because I'm just interested to see how it goes. His last start against the Brewers was one more step in that direction. He threw 46 pitches, I believe. I'm guessing they'll probably extend him out to maybe 55 pitches, maybe 60 today. So my best guess, he goes out there. If he pitches okay, he'll probably throw 4 innings. Good news for St. Louis. Their bullpen ranks 8th in Major League Baseball this season. It's been mostly pretty reliable, although slightly less so recently. The Mets, though, absolutely get after right-handed pitching. They're second in Major League Baseball in WRC plus, third in batting average against right-handed pitching this season. Not great if you're Jordan Hicks. He's going to need to be sharp over those first few innings if he's going to keep the Mets at bay. That's a team that's obviously playing really well. Chris Bassett on the other side, he looked really untouchable over his first couple starts. But, and I mentioned this last week, those first 2 starts were against the Diamondbacks and the Nationals. I'm not lower on very many teams than I am low on the Diamondbacks and Nationals. Came out against the Giants, struggled quite a bit early on, ended up giving up 5 earned runs. He did complete 6 innings. He kind of settled in a bit and started pitching better. So, I think there's something to be said for that. Bassett's a guy that I think he's kind of like a better version of Joe Right-hander to me. I think he's good, very solid arm, but he's also gettable at times. He's only pitched at St. Louis once back when he was with Oakland in 2019. Did okay, got knocked out in the 4th inning. Cardinals are a pretty average team as far as hitting right-handed pitching. So, I think I would make the Mets a slight favorite. I'm a little surprised to see, money come in against them and bring that line down, but I got to imagine some of it is just people trusting the Cardinals bullpen, trusting the Cardinals to bounce back at home after a win yesterday. It's not a game I feel strong enough to have a bet on, though.
Frankie Lindor, red hot. 4 homers, 4 doubles, 12 RBI. This is the opposite of what Frankie Lindor did last season, first year in Flushing when he couldn't hit a beach ball, looking much more like the perennial all-star that he was in Cleveland so far this year. Over the last 10 games, both of these teams pitching to sub-3 ERAs. So you can see why this is a tough game to bet. These are 2 good teams. These are 2 good teams who right now are outscoring their opponents, but on a day-to-day basis, not outscoring their opponents by a ton. They're pitching well. They're playing solid defense. They're not beating themselves with bad decisions. It should be a well-played game. If you're looking for a good game to watch tonight, that's probably the one. This is Touch 'em All, brought to you by SportsMap Elite. I'm Patrick Creighton along with Dalton Brown. Check out SportsMapElite.com. You're looking to get the best inside information from great experts like Dalton Brown and more. You can get it all at SportsMap Elite, just $19.99 a month. And you can check out all the great handicappers and riders, guys who are on big-time winning streaks like Dalton, who's been crushing it on baseball. If you're looking for a way to make money doing what you love, watching sports. Think about this. 18-year-old you is sitting at home deciding what you want to do for your career. You're going to watch sports and get money. Tell me that you didn't think that was the greatest career path of all time. All you got to do, go to SportsMapElite.com, $19.99 a month, get access to Dalton, get access to other great riders, $19.99 a month. You can watch sports and make money. Next game involves your Dodgers. Dalton, 9:40 Eastern start, the 12-4. LA Dodgers taking on the 6-11 D-backs at the ballpark formerly known as the Bob. Dodgers, now these lines have also moved. Dodgers have gone from -215 to -185. D-backs have gone from +185 to +165. Over-under has gone from 10 down to 9.5. All that being said, the Dodgers are arguably, the Dodgers and the Mets, the 2 best teams in the National League. The D-backs, not to be confused with the Dodgers and the Mets.
Certainly not. It's not looking great for Arizona, but this is a game that I'm very aggressively passing. I am vehemently disinterested in betting this game for a couple reasons. Look, what the Dodgers have done against right-handed pitching this year, there's no secret to it. They're the best team in baseball against right-handed, and you typically want to bet overs on their team totals against right-handed starters. You typically want to back them against right-handed starters. Not today. Zach Davies, for whatever reason, is a part owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's 4-3 against them in his career with a 2.1 ERA. I remember dating back to when he was in Milwaukee. Every time we face him, he comes in with his 88-mile-an-hour fastball and just confuses the hell out of our hitters. He's a guy that the Dodgers really struggle with him for whatever reason. That being said, I'm also not in a hurry to fade the Dodgers against any right-handed pitcher. So I'm kind of just interested to see what the Dodgers offense looks like against Davies tonight. I'm hoping that we start to figure him out some, because we certainly should. Couple notes on the game. The Dodgers are 18-3 in their last 21 games against Arizona. They've absolutely dominated this divisional matchup, which is not surprising when you look at what these teams have been the last few years. Tony Gonsolin has been really strong in 2022 so far. Some of the peripherals seem to suggest that he's probably getting a little bit lucky. Chase Field has been a little bit of a problem for him in the past. His first major league start was at Chase Field. He gave up 4 runs before recording an out in that game. I remember it well. It was a Thursday day game, and I felt bad for him. He had a couple errors behind him, but overall he got an ERA about 4.5 at Chase Field. So kind of a weird spot. Arizona's batting 189 on the season against righties. They're second worst in the league. It's hard to imagine them knocking Tony Gonsolin around. It's hard for me to imagine Zach Davies stymieing the Dodgers again. And yet I would not be all that surprised if both of those things happened. So I don't know that I think I would bet Arizona, because I just don't think you should fade the Dodgers against a right-handed pitcher. But I certainly wouldn't bet the Dodgers.
Spoken like a jaded fan of the Dodgers. Hey, now let me ask you, what do we have? Do we have a team total for the Dodgers for this game?
I don't have it on my sheet. I'm guessing it's 4.5 or 5.5, somewhere in that range.
Okay, let's just current stuff, right? Right now, Tony Gonsolin's got an 0.69 ERA. His last start against Atlanta, he went 6 shutout innings, gave up 1 hit. Gonsolin's gotten off to a really nice start. And for his career, he's a 2.67 ERA guy with a 1.10 whip. He has been a pretty good pitcher.
Absolutely.
A better than good pitcher for his career thus far. Zach Davies has never been a good pitcher. And he has gotten absolutely torn open. He's given up 3 homers in his last 9 1/3. He's coming off a year where he had an ERA of near 6 with a 1.60 whip. His numbers are kind of going the wrong direction for this stage of his career. Would you entertain the Dodgers team total in this particular game, considering how poor that Zach Davies has been recently?
I wouldn't, and I'll tell you why. Even in the midst of how bad he was last year, he took a no-hitter into the 7th inning against the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. I don't know why the Dodgers just don't hit Zach Davies, and it confounds the mind. I don't get it, but I just cannot back the Dodgers against Zach Davies. I've seen it happen too many times, and maybe this is pie in the sky, jaded Dodger fan stuff, but I just can't do it.
You know what, though? Because you're a Dodgers fan, you know that stuff. Like back in the day, the Mets could never hit Randy Johnson. Randy Johnson absolutely owned the Mets, except one guy, Joe McEwing. And Joe McEwing was about 5'9", 130 pounds. Somehow always hit Randy Johnson, but nobody else, none of the stars on the team could hit Randy Johnson. But little Joe McEwing, he could hit Randy Johnson. It's one of those things. It's like, how does this happen? So I understand, because there are things in sports that don't make sense. And if you don't watch, you'll never know. And that's why, like, you being a fan of the Dodgers and knowing for whatever reason, Zach Davies just has their number. All the stats might say one thing, but your history says something else. So that's something that you only get from somebody who actually knows the Dodgers. Time to get into the American League. He's Dalton Brown. I'm Patrick Creighton. This is Touch 'em All with SportsMap Elite. First game is a 6:45 Eastern start. The Mariners 10-6 on the season in Tampa to take on the 9-7 Rays. Now, the Mariners, last I checked on this line, they were plus 110. Rays were minus 130. Over under in this game was 7.
Yeah, the Rays are always an interesting team to handicap. You'll hear me say this every Tuesday and Thursday that the Rays are playing. They're one of my least favorite teams to handicap because you just don't know what's coming out of their bullpen. They use their bullpen more than any other team. They use it well. It's typically pretty successful. They have a 3.08 bullpen ERA this year. Today they are starting Matt Whistler. He's going out there strictly as an opener. I expect him to record 3 outs, and then they're going to turn to the lefty Josh Fleming. Fleming has been okay. He's thrown 3 1/3 in each of his outings this year. He gave up 3 runs in the last 2, was scoreless in his first. He's not a guy I really believe in all that much. He gave up 7 earned runs in 11 2/3 against Seattle last year. So he actually struggled in this matchup quite a bit. Seattle against left-handed pitching, 13th in average, but they are 3rd in WRC plus. So I think they're an offense worth backing against a guy like Fleming when he does get into the game. But the real story here is Logan Gilbert on the other side for Seattle. He's been an absolute star. Guy looks like an ace. He hasn't allowed a run in his last 14 2/3 innings. He gave up a homer on the second at bat of the year to Luis Arias in Minnesota and has not allowed anything since over his last 2 starts and change. He's a big, tall righty. He's got 2 good breaking balls to go with a good fastball. Throws his changeup only to lefties. He struggled a little bit with Tampa last year. 10 2/3, 7 earned, very similar to what we saw from Fleming against the Mariners. But I believe in Logan Gilbert quite a bit more, and I think he's going to come out and have a really good start today. Just kind of continue what he's been doing. So for me, there's value on the Mariners in the first 5 innings at even money. I think they should be a clear favorite in the first 5 innings. I don't think people have picked up on the fact that the Mariners are good. I have a ticket on them at 5-1 to win the AL West that I think could come home. I mean, obviously, topping the Astros is going to be a tall task for them, but they're really good, and I wouldn't put it past them. So Seattle today, first 5 innings, even money.
The Mariners won 90 games last year with a team that probably shouldn't have won 90 games, and they got significantly better in the offseason. That's a team that I think certainly has a chance to outproduce its 90 wins from last year. And if we're going to be realistic about the Astros might have, bigger names, and maybe they have more talent, but they also have some questions regarding their rotation. Justin Verlander is coming off Tommy John surgery. He's obviously not going to be able to throw 200-plus innings. Framber Valdez has never been a big innings guy. Jose Urquidy spent 2 trips on the IL last year with a bad shoulder. Same injury, did not have surgery. You got Louis Garcia, who pitched almost 70 innings more last year than his previous career high. That's always a watch. You've got Christian Javier, who they don't really seem to know what to do with him. He's a starter, but they have too many starters, so they put him in the bullpen. Then they don't know how to use him in the bullpen. Now they've gone with a 6-man rotation. You don't know if Lance McCullers Jr. is going to get back this year. There's a lot of question marks about that starting rotation. There's some question marks about the bullpen with Ryan Presley being injured. And, do they have enough guys to cover that underbelly of the bullpen? Because Pedro Baez, since getting hurt last year, has lost 7 miles an hour on his fastball. And Ronel Blanco, nice story, but he's not getting it done. And neither is Parker Mashinsky, and neither is Brian Abreu, who has great stuff, but seems to lack the stones to be a late-inning reliever. Guy throws 100 miles an hour, but he's out there hanging sliders. It doesn't make sense. Why are you not challenging hitters? And this has been consistent with Abreu now for 3 years. He is who he is. So I think there are questions about the underbelly of the Astros bullpen. The back of the pen, you've got Stanek, and you have Hector Neris, and eventually you'll have Presley back. But after that, there's a lot of question marks about that bullpen. if there is going to be an Achilles heel to the Astros, having injuries to the pitching staff, the starters, or to one of those key bullpen guys for a long term could have a really big impact on the Astros' ability to win that division this year. Next game involves the cheating sad sack Yankees, who have been cheating since 2015, and Jeff Passan out there trying to say it's a nothing burger. Wrong. Stop lying to the people. Stop protecting the pinstripes. And obviously he has to protect the pinstripes, because if you throw the pinstripes under the bus, then you got to throw the Red Sox under the bus, and he can't do that. So those cheating Yankees taking on the Orioles in the house that Jeter built. Orioles, lines have actually moved a little bit here. The Orioles were plus 235. They are now plus 220. Yankees have gone from minus 275 to minus 270. Not that it matters, because they are both mammoth lines. Over-under has gone from 7.5 to 8. Yanks have won 4 in a row at home. O's did take 2 of 3 from the Yanks earlier in the year in Baltimore. But to me, this is a pitching matchup that greatly favors the Bombers, Dalton.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Yankees being a favorite over the Orioles is never a surprise. But I think they're too big of a favorite today. Now, I don't know that I have the stones to back Baltimore. I think the Yankees probably are a little locked in for this matchup after losing 2 or 3 to them last week. But Jordan Lyles has looked okay so far this season, and he threw 5 1/3 strong against the Yankees last time out, only allowed a run. I'm not some Jordan Lyles truther, but I think he looks okay. He looks competitive, and the Yankees aren't exactly a team that's tearing the cover off the ball, especially against righties. So I think he could be competitive today. He faced the Yankees once last year too, 6 strong innings, one run. So there's some history there, but and I think Baltimore's kind of surprising with their bullpen. They're 8th in the league in bullpen ERA right now. I didn't necessarily see that coming. Of course, the Yankees are 4th in that category. Severino, he's off to a much stronger start in 2022 than I thought. I didn't really know what we were going to get from him. He's just missed so much time over the last few years. But he hasn't seen the Orioles since 2018 either. So, I don't think that's really a good thing for Baltimore. I think this game probably stays maybe a little tight and low scoring early. But I don't trust Jordan Lyles enough at the bandbox that is Yankee Stadium to want to take a first 5 under. Certainly don't want to take a full game under. The only way I can look here would be Baltimore, at like plus 230 in the first 5 innings or whatever they are. I just think that's a totally unreasonable number. I think, look, I mean, the Yankees are talented, but I don't know that the Yankees are a top 5 team in baseball like this line says they are. I just don't fully buy into that. And if Lyles pitches the way he has his last couple outings against them, getting plus 230 with Baltimore in the first 5 innings is an absolute steal. I got to figure out if I actually want to play that or not. I got to dive a little deeper, but that's the only way I can really look here.
All right, so let me ask you, bigger surprise. Luis Severino off to the start he's off to this year. Jordan Lyles still in the league after 12 years with a 5.19 career ERA.
Lyles. Because Lyles has had injuries too. I'm pretty surprised to see that he's still kicking around. But hey, to his credit, that ERA is sitting around 3.5 so far this year. He's been competitive. He found a team that gave him a rotation spot. So, I don't know. I remember when he first came up with the Stros a long time ago, and he was this highly regarded prospect, and just never really panned out. But Severino, I think we all know the talent's there. If he can stay healthy, it's just can he maintain velocity? Can he stay healthy? And can he be effective? I think if the first 2 have answers of yes, then the last one it probably will be effective. But we'll see. I don't know. There's a pretty good chance I end up with money on Baltimore here in some form. I just can't help myself.
He's Dalton Brown. I'm Patrick Creighton. This is Touch 'em All SportsMap Elite. SportsMapElite.com, your number one source for all your sports wagering information. Get all the info you need so that you can be profiting while watching your favorite sports. SportsMapElite.com, just $19.99 a month. You check out all the work from Dalton and lots of other great, some of the best handicappers in the country at SportsMapElite.com. Next game involves a team where there might be some panic setting in. The Red Sox are 7-10, and there's already talk about, hey, if they don't turn it around, they've got a ton of guys who are free agents at the end of the year. There could be a massive midseason sell-off if the Red Sox do not get it turned around. They're 7-10, but the panic already in Boston. In Toronto, taking on the 11-6 Blue Jays. Red Sox plus 165, Jays minus 185. Over-under has moved from 8 to 8.5. Nick Pivetta probably wishes the year hadn't started yet. He has gotten absolutely torn open so far this year.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think with the Red Sox, to me, they're kind of where I thought they'd be. I view them as a team that should hover around 500, maybe a little above it, but they are a team with a good offense and a not very good pitching staff, and it really is to some extent that simple for them. Nick Pivetta has been awful, to put it simply, and I think if you actually look at the underlying numbers, it's really bad. I mean, 9 walks, 16 hits in 12 2/3 innings pitched so far. For those doing the math, that's a whip of right around 2. 5 starts against Toronto last year alone, pitched to an ERA of close to 6. It's not a matchup that's very kind to him. He just faced them 6 days ago, gave up 5 earned runs in 4 innings, really wasn't competitive. And Toronto's well above average against right-handed pitchers in general. My best bet of the day is Toronto team total over 4.5. I've seen that listed at just minus 115. That's like a 3-unit play for me. I don't see how Toronto at home in that packed building doesn't get after Pivetta early, and Boston's bullpen behind it is not good. So I think Toronto comes out, scores a ton early. I like them in the first 5 innings as well on the run line, laying half a run at minus 130. I don't see how they don't lead after 5. On the other side, Kevin Gausman's pitching absolutely dominated Boston at Fenway over 8 innings just 5 days ago. I don't always love backing a pitcher who just pitched well against a team at his next start. But this is a lopsided pitching matchup. It's funny. It's the opposite of how I feel about that Yankees-Orioles game, where I think the line's way too inflated. This line, I think, should be inflated even more. I don't think bookmakers have quite picked up on the fact that Toronto's one of the best teams in baseball. The other thing, too, I mean, them putting Gausman out there, it kind of makes sense that the Red Sox struggled against him. They're 27th this year in WRC plus against righties. So, this is a smash spot for me with Toronto. I would lay the minus 1.5. I'd lay the half run in the first 5 innings. I'd bet their team total over. I don't see any other angle.
But team total was actually one of the things I was going to ask you about. Vlad Guerrero Jr., 344 this season, 5 bombs, 12 ribs. Lourdes Gurriel Jr., in his last 10 games, 14 hits, 2 homers, and 7 RBI. The Jays have been raking, and they're getting a guy who's basically going to throw BP. I feel like this is a game when the Jays are they're going to pound. It's almost like they might hit the over-under regardless of whether the Red Sox score. This is an absolutely brutal matchup for the Sox. All right, as we get through the stretch of games here, 7-10, the 5-9 Royals, the 6-9 White Sox. Royals have gone from plus 140 to plus 135. White Sox have gone from minus 160 to minus 150. The over-under has gone from 8.5 to 9. What do you like on this game? Do you like this game?
Yeah, the one thing I'll say is go look for an 8.5 on the total. If you can find it, I like that over. That's what I was able to get earlier today. I don't know if there are any of those still out there, but I would say to go look for one. Daniel Lynch, pitcher for Kansas City. You don't want to throw lefties at the White Sox. They're a little bit like the Astros in that sense. They stack their lineup with right-handed hitters. even with Jimenez out, you're still looking at Tim Anderson. You're looking at Jose Abreu, Luis Robert, even guys like AJ Pollock. They absolutely smash left-handed pitching. And being in the division with them, he's seen a bit of the White Sox. He has a 16.20 career ERA against the White Sox.
Say that again?
Yeah,
16?
16.20 career ERA against the White Sox.
That's a good points per game if you're third guard in the rotation. I don't know about an ERA though.
Yeah, it's the anti Zach Davies against the Dodgers. I think the White Sox should get after him pretty early. I also don't want to back the White Sox to even win the game because I don't really trust their bullpen right now. And Dallas Keuchel has not looked good. It seems like the Astros cut bait at the right time on him. He was reasonably okay in his first start of the season against Seattle. 5 innings, 3 earned, whatever. But a 7-run first inning against a Cleveland offense that is not great in his last start. He's just not getting the ball past hitters right now. And he threw 15 innings against Kansas City last year, gave up 11 earned runs. This is a team that knows him well, a team that's comfortable getting after him. I don't know why this total was ever 8.5. If you can find 8.5, I would take it over. I would probably still lean that way at 9. But look, I think one thing worth noting, as we go into these next couple games, heading into yesterday, unders were hitting this season at 61%. That is quite a clip. Now, I think what we're starting to see is lines get posted that are too low as bookmakers try to adjust to not get killed by people who are just going out there and blindly betting unders. So, on the last couple of weeks, I keep saying I don't want to target overs. That's starting to change because I think these lines are starting to change a little too much. I think we're starting to see overreaction. This is one of those spots where I like an over at 8.5.
The Tigers and the Twins, 7:40 Eastern start. Detroit 6-9, Minnesota 8-8. Tigers line has moved from +120 to +125. Twinkies are -140. Over under has gone from 7 to 7.5. You got some. Is there value in this game? Is there anything you like here, Dalton?
There is a very similar story. If you can find a 7 out there, I like the over. Couple reasons why. Eduardo Rodriguez, he's been just okay for Detroit so far. Really hasn't shown anything dominant. He has faced some tough offenses. He's faced the Red Sox, the Yankees, and the White Sox. Those are not who you want to start with as a left-handed pitcher. In theory, he might be getting a break today against Minnesota. I don't think so. If you look at what Minnesota's hitters have done against him, Carlos Correa, 6 for 10. Urshela, 7 of 21. Sano, 4 of 10. That's without mentioning Byron Buxton, who I think has a real chance to win the AL MVP this year and absolutely smashes left-handed pitching. I don't think this is a good situation for him going and pitching in the cold in Minnesota against a team that tees off on lefties. I think Minnesota gets their runs. They're also playing really well. They just swept the White Sox at home. There's a lot of momentum behind that team playing at home at Target Field. Detroit, I think, and I mentioned this on your show a couple weeks ago, I think Detroit's still a year away. I think they're better than they were last year. But they're running into a pitcher in Chris Paddock today that has been very hittable for a couple years now. He when he first burst onto the scene a few years ago for the Padres, he was really good, but he hasn't been that guy for a while. The Dodgers got to him early in his first start. Kansas City eventually got to him in his second start, through 5 innings, gave up 2 runs. I make Minnesota a small favorite in the game. Minnesota is a small favorite in the game. Minnesota's 24th in bullpen ERA. So if Detroit is able to get Paddock out of the game before 5 innings or so, which is, I think, all you're going to get out of him, then I really like Detroit to score some runs as well. Look, an over-under of 7, I mean, it's not Johan Santana and Justin Verlander. We're looking at Eduardo Rodriguez and Chris Paddock. Maybe because it's cold, there's a thought that the bats won't be awake, but I don't see it. I like the over.
It's funny you mentioned Chris Paddock. I think Chris Paddock's rookie year, he was talking trash with Noah Syndergaard about, who's a better pitcher. And Paddock gets hurt, and he hasn't been the same guy since. Noah Syndergaard got hurt, missed, a year and a half. And right now, I'd say Syndergaard is definitely a better pitcher than Chris Paddock. That's not a reach for me. 8 o'clock Eastern, 8:05. The Astros in Arlington to take on the Rangers. Astros 7-9, Rangers 6-10. Astros have moved from -115 to -110. Rangers from -105 to +105. Over under on this game is 9. Both of these teams throwing guys who have struggled so far this year.
Yeah, they are. And to me, I think there's a clear side of value here. I look at this game. I ask myself a few questions. I go, okay, who's the better team? The Astros. I think we can say that pretty clearly. If you look at the preseason win totals, the Astros were in the low 90s, high 80s. Rangers were maybe low 70s, right? So we know the Astros are generally going to be the better team overall, and they're facing a lefty. The Astros absolutely smash lefties. They absolutely smashed Taylor Hearn. He's made, if you look at his 2 starts this year, 8 earned in 6.2 innings, hasn't looked good. The Astros first in WRC plus against lefties, second in average. I think the Astros are going to come out and score runs early. I think the Astros are in a bad mood. They haven't been playing very well, and I think they want to come out and get after somebody. I think they've got a good chance to today. Odorizzi, look, he is what he is. He's an unspectacular right-handed starter. He's nothing that special. He's been hit pretty hard through his 3 starts this season. However, one of those starts was against the Mariners, who, like we talked about, are very much improved. The Angels can hit right-handed pitching too. He's faced them twice. Texas is not the offense those teams are. And if you look at what Texas has done offensively this year, they've done it against left-handed pitching. They beat Framber Valdez yesterday. That was another example. But Texas against righties, 24th in WRC plus, 26th in average. They don't hit righties well. I think this is a spot where Odorizzi might actually look pretty decent. And he's a veteran guy who I trust to eventually kind of recover and, recover back toward his mean. I think the Astros at this close to a pick 'em against a team they're clearly better than against a left-handed pitcher. I get that Odorizzi hasn't looked very good, but I think this is great value on the Astros to just bet them at the money line. I got them at -108.
No, and last time out, Odorizzi, who didn't make it out of the first inning, threw a lot of very borderline pitches and didn't get any of those calls at all. Wound up getting pulled. They were down 3-0 when he got pulled. Next batter, Yuli Gurriel makes an error, opens the floodgates at 6-0. They're facing Shohei Ohtani, who had absolutely electric stuff that night. I would expect Odorizzi to bounce back. Like I said, look, Jake Odorizzi is a 5-inning pitcher who generally will give you, 5 innings and allow 2 to 3 runs. If you remember last year, he got off to a brutal start, and then he got hurt. And when he came back on May 29th, and you look at his season overall, pitched to a 4.21 ERA, league average is 4.26. So he's a 5-inning league average 5th starter. That's what he is. But I think he's certainly better than the guy that they saw last time out. And the Astros are due to break out. They've been in this team-wide offensive slump, and all right, well, one night these 2 guys will hit. The next night those 2 guys will hit. They're due to break out. And when they do break out, I think there's going to be a lot of pitchers who wish they hadn't because they're going to get on a roll. This is what the Astros do. Every time you look at these teams that are good teams, essentially they go on 3 or 4 runs every year where they'll go 15-3, they'll go 17-5, they go 12-2. The rest of the year they play 500 baseball. And that's a 96-win team. So, the Astros have been, they're 7-9. They've been treading water. Eventually, they're going to get hot and they're going to go on a run. And getting to face a lefty who they've historically owned is about as good an opportunity as they're going to get to get right. 2 games left on the schedule. 9:35 Eastern start. The 7-9 Cleveland Guardians, the 10-7 Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim of Los Angeles of Anaheim. Funny thing is, we knew them growing up as the California Angels, who then became the Anaheim Angels, who then became the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, and are now the Los Angeles Angels. When they first came into the league in 1961, they were the Los Angeles Angels, for all of you who didn't know that. This line, the Guardians plus 140. Halos have gone from minus 160 to minus 155. Over under on this game has moved a lot. It's gone from 7.5 to 8.5. Dalton, what do you like here?
Yeah. So first, I just on the Angels, when they first came into existence, they actually played in Los Angeles.
Yes, they played in Wrigley Field.
Yeah, so I found it, I guess I would have found it acceptable then. You'll always hear me to refer to them as the Anaheim Angels. I have a massive bone to pick with the fact that they call themselves Los Angeles. It's like a team from Philadelphia or a team from South Jersey calling themselves like Brooklyn.
What about a team from Northern Jersey calling themselves New York?
I mean, look, Northern Jersey's over a river from Manhattan, so I can at least understand that. But yeah, I will never write the words Los Angeles Angels. I will never say them. They're the Anaheim Angels to me. You'll hear me refer to them as Anaheim because that's who they are.
The Disney Angels.
Yeah. But anyway, so I think it's a really good pitching matchup tonight. With a total, I'm showing it now at 7.5. I think if I had seen that 8.5, I would have bet the under on that. Patrick Sandoval for the Angels has done nothing but impress me. He's a guy that for them, he was quite good for them last year, kind of came on the scene as a pretty reliable starter. And last week on this show, I faded him because he was going up against the Astros. And I thought to myself, okay, well, here's an opportunity to sell this guy high. He's been pitching well, but he's a lefty going into Minute Maid to pitch against the Astros. That doesn't go well. Sure enough, he comes out, throws another 4 scoreless innings. At this point, Patrick Sandoval has fully sold me. I'm not going to be fading him at random, and especially not against a Cleveland lineup that isn't very good and especially isn't very good against lefties. That said, Tristan McKenzie on the other side, he has been quite effective. He has not pitched deep into games at all yet. But if you look, he faced Anaheim last season, through 7 innings, only gave up a run, and the Angels are only in the middle of the pack against right-handed pitching so far this season. So, to me, the Angels as a moderate favorite, I think it makes sense, right? I think I give a small starting pitching edge to Anaheim. I give a lineup edge to Anaheim. I give a significant bullpen edge to Cleveland, and Anaheim's at home. So Angels minus 160 makes sense. I don't think there's value in the total at 7.5. If you give me an 8.5, I will play that under. But that's about it. I don't have a play on that game as of now.
So we're having a little fun with the Angels to how they used to play in LA. And I say, yeah, they played at Wrigley Field. There was a Wrigley Field. It was a minor league stadium in Los Angeles that when the Angels came into league in 61, they played their first season at Wrigley Field. They played their next 4 seasons at what we know is Dodger Stadium, but once upon a time was called Chavez Ravine Stadium. And they moved into what is now Angel Stadium in 1966. So since 66, not the LA Angels, according to one Dalton Brown.
Correct.
Last game on the docket is the only interleague matchup on this day. 9:45 Eastern start. The Oakland A's 9-8. Surprising that they are doing as well as they are against the 12-5 San Francisco Giants. The A's, the line has moved, believe it or not, from plus 225 to plus 210. Giants from minus 265 to minus 260. Over under on this game is a very low 6.5. Both pitchers pitching tonight have done very well. Everybody knows who Carlos Rodon is. He's been lights out, 2-0, 106 ERA. Not everybody knows who Dalton Jeffries is, who, despite being 1-2, has pitched to a 1.17 ERA. Both of these guys off to very good starts. Where do you have your value? Is there value in this matchup tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it's an ugly line, a little bit like that Yankees-Orioles line where you've got one team who's just a massive favorite. I think it's actually a bit more warranted here, though. Look, Dalton Jeffries is off to a great start this season. I don't want to take anything away from that. 2 earned runs and 15.1 innings pitched. He's done it against some decent competition other than Baltimore, but I just don't buy into that being sustainable. And if you look at what the Giants have done this year, they are 4th in WRC plus against righties, and Oakland's bullpen has an ERA over 4. So I think he's going to have to be excellent if he's going to keep Oakland in that game. And I think it is regression time for him. I'm not saying I think the Giants are going to blow him out of the yard, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the Giants put up 3 runs, see him last 4 or 5 innings. I wouldn't trust him to go deep into this game, and then he's going to be followed by a bullpen that's very gettable. He's backed up by a lineup that is frankly terrible. I think Oakland's overachieving so far. 17 games will do that. Whereas I think the Giants are kind of showing us that what happened last year was more legit than we thought. They're off to a really hot start, and Carlos Rodon is doing exactly what he did last April, which is absolutely dominate. I don't see Oakland being able to do a whole lot about it tonight. It's not a good lineup. They're 23rd in batting average against lefties. I think it absolutely makes sense that the Giants are a massive favorite. The Giants bullpen is also number 1 in Major League Baseball in ERA. I don't think there's going to be much given up behind Carlos Rodon. I struggle to see how Oakland scores more than 2 runs. Therefore, I like San Francisco full game run line -1.5 at only -120. I actually think that's pretty cheap. So I like San Francisco to win this game by at least 2 runs. And yeah.
Giants with a pounding on the team that is soon to be known as the Las Vegas Athletics. Nobody will have moved more than the A's, right? From Philadelphia to Kansas City to Oakland. Now they're going to go to Vegas because then I can't see them actually getting that stadium done at Howard Terminal. I feel like they've been trying to do that for 10 years. And it's just never going to happen. And unfortunately, Oakland's going to be left with no teams.
Yeah, and look, there are places within the Oakland Coliseum where you can literally see Oracle Park across the bay. So, look, if those folks want to go watch baseball, they'll at least be able to go across the bay. It could be worse. But yeah, I think Vegas is a heck of a baseball town. I played a lot of baseball there growing up. You look, there are a lot of players in the league right now from there. You look at guys like Bryce Harper, Chris Bryant. It makes a lot of sense for there to be a baseball team there. And yeah, I agree. I don't think it's going to be very long now.
This is Touch 'em All, SportsMapElite.com. He is Dalton Brown. I'm Patrick Creighton. Make sure you get to SportsMapElite.com. There you will find great handicappers like Dalton who give you great insight, great value lines, great ways to make money while you watch your favorite sports every single day. It's just $19.99 a month. It's the best value in sports wagering, just $19.99 a month. You get great plays on every sport every day with some of the best handicappers in America. He's Dalton Brown. I'm Patrick Creighton. Dalton, love talking with you, man. It's great talking some baseball with you. I'm sure we'll have you on the show again pretty soon, probably tomorrow. I think tomorrow sounds like a good one. Thursday and Friday, we got the draft, so we're going to be tied up with that. But yeah, I think tomorrow might be a good day to do a little baseball with you tomorrow on ESPN 97.5 in Houston. And, of course, you can always get the podcasts on those at ESPN975.com. So if you want to get all the good freebies that Dalton throws out for you, that's where you'll find them, late hits on ESPN 97.5. Dalton, appreciate your time, brother. Let's go make some money, and we'll do this again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for filling in. Have a good one.
All right. Take care, guys.